Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. We'll see. Verse 13, Matthew 7, verse 13. Enter in by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many are those who enter in by it. How narrow is the gate, and restricted is the way that leads to life. Few are those who find it. Milo, you'll start us off. Go ahead.
So the first thing I have is enter by the narrow gate. And it made me think about John chapter 10 or Yochanan 10, where Messiah says that he is the door. I thought about gate, door, same thing to me. So in Yochanan 10, verses 7 to 11, it says, Yahusha therefore said to them, truly, truly, I tell you, I am the sheep's door. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but to the sheep, they did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and go out and will find pasture. The thief only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and may have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. And then he continues. So just the aspect of the gate. What gate are we supposed to enter in that's narrow? It's Yahusha. He is the door. He is the way. He is the light. That's the gate that we're supposed to enter by.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
That's what makes us set apart.
Yep. This is not an easy road. If it's easy, you should be questioning if you're on the right path. If there's difficulty, still question. You don't want to be too difficult. There are some people that makes you extra difficult, and they start adding doctrines and traditions of man and burdening people with things that are not scriptural. In this walk, especially. The Hebrew roots, Messianic, whatever you want to call it, Israelite camps. There's a lot of doctrines of men even here that are trying to put heavier weights and heavier burdens on people. Not even trying to help them. So we don't want to do that either. However, like Acts chapter, what was that, D-Ro?
I just want to quickly say something about I myself walking through this road, this narrow road. It can be difficult at times, but we must, stay aware and be vigilant because, Hashatan does lurk and does try to talk you out of it and to go back to the world. And I've had him try to converse into my ear, and I just tell him, get behind me. He'll do that because it's not an easy road, but the road is worth it.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Messiah talked about counting the cost. That's probably somewhere if you want to find that. But Acts chapter 14, verse 21. I believe it's Barnabas and Paul. Talking about Paul and Barnabas. Verse 21, it says, when they had preached the good news to that city. This is one of the goals, y'all, of this assembly is to have disciples, those of us who can go out and preach in our own cities. Be active in the grocery store, wherever you go. If you go to extracurricular activities, like try to find opportunities. Obviously right now, I think we're in a season where we're trying to find more believers. So we're trying to go for Christians. And I've been encouraging everybody to go around, ask people, are you a Christian? Are you a Christian? Are you a Bible believer? And then try to hone in on those people, try to get their attention, try to have a discussion with them, see if they're open-minded enough to have a discussion. And once we build a team and we go around and we start preaching the gospel to everybody, that's the goal. That's the goal. Get your discipleship team, get your community, get your physical team, and then go and preach to everybody. You could preach to anybody right now if you want, with the Ruach is leading you. But here they were preaching the gospel in that city and had made many disciples. See that? And people miss this. They're preaching to all people, but this is after they've been preaching to Yahudim, and the Yahudim been rejecting them. They've been getting kicked out of synagogues. They've been getting locked up. Okay, you don't want to receive what we have to say, we'll go to Gentiles, right? So that's why I'm recommending that we go after Bible believers, New Testament Bible believers, and because they're the people closest to embracing what we understand, because they embrace the Messiah, the death and the resurrection of Yahushua Messiah. And what they need, all they need now is to understand that the law hasn't been done away with. They need to understand the depth of the new covenant, that it's for the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and that Yah is going to put his law in our hearts. And we are part of the house of Israel and the house of Judah by faith through Messiah. We are grafted in, Romans chapter 11. That's the message that Christians need to hear. And we're trying to find people who are willing, Christians who are willing to embrace that message. And then with those people, we can go out and preach to everybody. But here, they were being successful, making disciples. They returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch, verse 22, strengthening the souls of the disciples, exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that through many afflictions, we must enter into God's kingdom. That was one of your cross references? Through many afflictions. That's not, I don't want to go as far as saying self-infliction. The only, as far as I would go with that, is denying the flesh. To a degree that is self-infliction, because you're suppressing your physical carnal desires, but it's not physical harm. You're not physically harming yourself. That's not what, I'm not promoting that. I'm promoting you suppressing, suppress your physical carnal desires. And we've been taught in this world, I was a social worker for 7 years in social work, in the worldly, secular social work industry. You're taught that suppressing your feelings, suppressing your desires is not healthy. If you want to go ahead and just be safe when you're, feeling the rest. That's what's promoted, even in high school, to kids, in health classes, physical health classes. They teach, hey, you got these desires are in you, go ahead and do it. Just use protection and be safe. Don't suppress it. Well, according to scripture, we are supposed to suppress those. And it's called crucifying the flesh. It hurts. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it can mess with our head. That's part of dying to ourselves. And through many afflictions, we must enter into Yahuwah's kingdom. Also, the afflictions will come from external afflictions. So people afflicting us because of our faith. So I think that's definitely part of the narrow gate, the narrow road. While the wide road is easier, it's comfortable, it's, make people feel good and don't offend anybody, and that's it. You won't get in trouble. Just stay safe. Right now, we're not allowed to teach against LGBT. So let's respect that. Respect the law of the land. Let's not speak against it, because we'll get in trouble. And we won't get in trouble. And we can still be believers. What if that's the very thing that causes you not to get into the kingdom? The fact that you are not willing to speak the truth on LGBT when the opportunity approaches itself. Man, I'm telling you, we're living in some testing times. And this is nothing compared to what people are going through in third world countries. You want to talk about affliction. We are being afflicted with what we're allowed to say or not say, and then what? We get a ticket or we get fired? What about having your family burned to death? What about having your father, your mother, you know what? That's affliction. And I believe that in the book of Acts, they were going through a lot of that. A lot of the apostles died. Stephen was stoned to death. Supposedly Thomas, they tied his arms and his feet to horses and had the horses run off in different directions. That's how he went out. So anyway, Ezzy, I digress.
I have two references real quick for 13 and 14. I'll start with Jeremiah 6, verse 19. It says, "Hear, O earth, see, I am bringing evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not listened to my words nor my Torah, and they rejected it." That kind of refers to this narrow gate, and also the destruction that the wide gate kind of leads to, like you were saying, the judgment that's going to come on the people in the end. And then the other cross reference is Romans 3. I've been in Romans this week, if you can't tell, but Romans 3, I'm going to start in verse 10. It says, as it has been written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is no one who is understanding. There is none who is seeking Elohim. They all have turned aside. They have together become worthless. There is none who does good, no, not one. Their throat is an open tomb. With their tongues they have deceived. The poison of adders is under their lips, whose mouth is filled with cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and wretchedness are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no reverence of Elohim before their eyes. And we know that whatever the Torah says, it says to those who are in the Torah, so that every mouth might be stopped and all the world come under judgment before Elohim. So when it talks about, entering in through the narrow gate, and that only few find it, I think a lot of times with all the different camps, we kind of get caught up on who's better, who's right. And we kind of lose sight of the fact that, there's only so many people that are going to, be left behind. There's only so many people who are going to reach this righteousness. And we all need Messiah. We all need Yahuwah in order to attain that righteousness. So there's not one that's good over the other. It's your personal relationship. It's your walk. And at the end of the day, even your kids can't be saved, if you don't teach them the way, if you don't share this truth with them. So that just kind of stuck out to me about the narrow gate and the destruction. I mean, that should be a reminder to all of us, the destruction that's going to come. Because even this week, I had someone who asked me, are you Hebrew Israelite? And I said, I'm not, with the Black Hebrew Israelites. And she was saying that, they condemn her, that she's going to hell every day. And if we condemn one another and say every day that they're going to hell, how are they going to receive the truth? How are they going to get, to this narrow gate? If we only focus on the destruction, if we only focus on the wrath that's coming, you're going to scare these people from the narrow gate. It's already narrow enough. So, I think there has to be a balance in our judgment, like we talked about before, but also remember ourselves that it's not even promised to us, unless we are walking this narrow path. So that was it.
Hallelujah, Sister Ezra. You always be saying some good stuff. Hallelujah.
Yes. Amen. Very good. Excellent. Jeremy.
Can I comment on this?
You can ask it in a question format.
In the question format. Okay. Do you feel that when it says there's a scripture where if you search for the Lord with all your heart, if you seek Him, you will find Him?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that in this day and age, people are no longer wanting to seek the Lord? Therefore, that road, you will find it because of the hardness of heart.
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's prophesied that in the last days, the love of many will wax cold. That's what the New Testament also teaches. The love of many will wax cold. That means, see, back in the day, even though there wasn't as much knowledge of the Bible as there is today with the internet and the access that there is to everything, back in the day, people had faith, right? People obeyed what was being taught in churches. People read their Bibles. You know what I'm saying? They went home and they read their Bibles. You know what I'm saying? Today, I mean, what was that?
Today, there's too many distractions.
There's a lot of distractions, absolutely. Entertainment everywhere. There's all kinds of things to get involved in. I mean, a lot of it is the technology. It's the television and the entertainment and the computer and the internet in the sense of entertainment. We're swamped by it.
There's also a thing too that a lot of people, they watch this TV and the movies and shows about space and all that stuff, and it pushes away of an actual creator, and a father that we have. They don't think about that anymore. They think other things, which is, you know, they're being deceived, and that's
I
really
get what you're
sad.
saying.
Yeah, they're not-
Basically, like, you know, they see sci-fi. You know, they see sci-fi and all this supernatural that it makes the movies, it puts the movies on a higher level of reality and like attention than the scriptures.
Right.
That's
Yep.
basically, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep. And so people, we go around, we've been asking people, are you a Bible believer? Are you a Bible believer? I believe in everything. I mean, we're finding it difficult just to find somebody who actually believes in the Bible. Do you actually believe in the Bible? It's hard. I bet you back in the day in 1990, it wouldn't have been this difficult. Most people would be like, no, I go to church. Yeah, I believe in the Bible. Today, it's like, I believe in the Bible. I believe in many Bibles. I believe in many religions. Or no, I don't. Some people.
I've heard that you got to know them all to really know it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so yeah, man, it's getting narrow. I mean, to the point where even statistically, you could look up Barna. I think it's called Barna Statistics, or yeah, I forget, Barna or Bill Bright or Bill Britt, something like that. It's a Christian statistic, and they basically, I don't know how they get their statistics, but they go to different churches and ask certain questions. But there's a high percentage of people that attend churches that don't believe in a heaven and a hell. You know what I'm saying? Something as basic as that. You go to church and you don't believe in a heaven and a hell. Like, what are you going to church for? So it's really bad, bro. It's really bad. I would agree with the question that you asked. Definitely. The love of many are waxing cold in the last days. I don't think a lot of people are seeking Yahuwah.
and that's why it's our jobs to go out there and preach it, teach it.
Yep. There's going to be a remnant. A remnant is a small percentage.
But if I may, that's also always been the case.
True.
The wide gate has always been there. Narrow gate still.
With probably spurts of revivals, spurts of outpouring of the Spirit.
But even then, it's still a remnant. It's always been. This is not over 2,000, it's about 2,000 years where he was saying this, and he was talking to people at that time. Let alone now, I think definitely going to get worse, obviously, because people rise up against Yahuwah more and more. It's going back to like Sodom and Gomorrah, but it's always been that way because it's always been easier to serve yourself and serve your flesh than having to subject yourself to Yahuwah. Now he says his Torah is not burdensome. He says it, but slave mentality can't see that. They actually think that if we serve Yahuwah, then we're a slave. In that sense, we're not free, but they don't realize that they're actually enslaving themselves. It's just how it is. So I think it's always been
people don't look at the different definitions of enslavement. I
was gonna say, doesn't Romans say once you learn the truth or you're in Torah, you're now a slave to righteousness? I want to be a slave to righteousness.
Yes. Yep. Slave to righteousness. Some people look at servanthood or slave. The word slave is like being brutally beaten and physical labor, but they don't look at it as, what about your mind? What about your behavior, your actions? And I believe that most people who have their guard down, who don't care about God, they have no guard up. They have no guard up to care about what God thinks is right and what God thinks is wrong. Their only guard that's up is what they believe is right and what they believe is wrong. So when they're watching television or listening to the radio or seeing advertisements on the road or what do you call it? The billboards. I mean, there's advertisements everywhere for you to please your life and to get your best life now and to, so everything's being pushed. I mean, in high schools, a lot of sexually immoral artists and celebrities are glorified in public schools. So what do you think is being pushed on our kids, on parents, in the gym with music being played? And I mean, so we're a slave to what's being pushed. Fox News, CNN, the mainstream media, they show us what they want us to hear and to see. They don't show us things that we should know that's not being televised. We got to go to these underground, you know what I'm saying, underground news people that are reporting things that don't get paid as much money to find out other things that are being done around the world. And so that's a slave mentality, is to give in to what's easily accessible to us, mainstream media. And you see the culture of our world goes the direction of our mainstream media. That's the way it works. And the people who designed advertisement, people who paid billions and billions of dollars for a 30-second commercial or a 15-second commercial on YouTube or on television, they know every penny they invested. They know exactly why they invested every penny into that commercial, because they know the power of advertisement. They know the power of visuals, subliminal messages, and the power of us being able to hear sounds. They know the power that it has. So you see it being reflected in our community. Our government is becoming more, there's more homosexuals in the government. And as you see more of that happening, you're going to see the laws continue to change. You're going to see it changing. We will have a homosexual or a transgender president at some point in this country. It will happen in the United States of America. You can call it prophesying. It's a hunch. It's a hunch I got that I see the wave. I see the wave.
It's already happening in smaller legislatures. So smaller.
Exactly. It's happening in the smaller, like the Senate, the House of the Senate and things like that. So in different governmental positions, there's already homosexuals rising up and getting positions. It's only a matter of time before the actual president of the United States is either homosexual or trans.
Oh, we probably already have. We just don't know it.
You never know, man. And then when that happens, the laws change. And anyway, I digress. The road following the Bible, following the scriptures, is not popular. That's why they took the Bible out of public schools. That's why the homosexuals and the Satanists, they protest to have the Ten Commandments statues taken down, okay? While they're fighting to get their Baphomet, half goat, half human, half man, half woman, part woman, part man, part goat statue of their Satan worshiping church with little children at the feet. They're trying to get that statue put up as a monument somewhere. They're touring around the world right now, fighting to get their statue put up. All
we read to children.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. To get the children.
Nice that drag queens are now reading for children.
Oh yeah, in public school, drag queens are reading LGBT books to children. Yep.
The main one to read, the lady that reads it, or whatever you want to call it, her name sounds like Antichrist. I can't remember the first name, but last is Christ. That's what the name she goes by.
It's crazy.
How do people see this?
That's crazy. I want to read a cross-reference. Luke chapter 13, verse 24. Luke chapter 13, verse 24. Yahusha, the Messiah, says this in Luke 13, verse 24. He says, strive to enter in by the narrow door, for many, I tell you, will seek to enter in and will not be able. Didn't I just say earlier that a lot of churches preach not to strive anymore? Remember how we heard that a lot in the Christian church? It's in a lot of worship songs that are on mainstream radio. I don't have to strive anymore. You love me, No more striving. The striving is over. Like there's a lot of strong songs like that. And it's so anti-Bible. Because literally Messiah says the complete opposite right here. He says to strive. Why does he say strive? Because seeking is not all that you need to do. Because there are some who will seek and will not be able. So seeking alone is not enough. You have to strive. That means you have to put some effort in. You have to put some work in. When the waves are coming against you, you have to push forward. When there's resistance, you have to push forward. Verse 25, he says, when once the master of the house has risen up and has shut the door, and you begin to stand outside and knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open for us. Then he will answer, I tell you, quote, I don't know you or where you come from. Verse 26, then you will begin to say, we ate and drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets. I'm going to translate this in a different way. We took communion. We prayed. Every time we had our meals, we gave thanks. We had awesome worship services. We cried. We were loving you. We made awesome music and awesome songs, and we heard some awesome messages. We even benefited from your miracles. We've seen healings. We ate your food. Verse 27, he will say, I tell you, I don't know where you come from. Depart from me, all you workers of lawlessness. There's that word lawlessness again. In some of your translations, it might say transgressors or iniquity.
Or lies.
Or lies. All right, but if you look at the Greek, let's see if I'm right on this one. Iniquity, G93. No, this is different. This is a different word for iniquity. It means injustice of a judge, unrighteousness of heart and life, a deed violating law and justice, act of unrighteousness. So, okay, it's close. It comes from the word G94. It's descriptive of one who violates or has violated justice, unjust, unrighteous, sinful, of one who deals fraudulently with others, one who is deceitful, a treacherous person, a heathen, unjust. All right. So what is sin? Sin is a transgression of the law, according to 1 John chapter 3, verse 4. Sin is a transgression of the law of God. God has a law. God has laws. God has a kingdom. A kingdom has laws. A government has laws. It's not that difficult. And so those who do what God tells us not to do would be transgressors of the law, would be violators of the law. Let's continue with this passage before we end. It says, verse 28, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in God's kingdom, and yourselves being thrown outside. They will come from the east, west, north, and south, and will sit down in God's kingdom. Behold, there are some who are last, who will be first, and there are some who are first, who will be last. And then I'm going to end with this. It's funny. It says, on the same day, some Pharisees came, saying to him, get out of here and go away, for Herod wants to kill you. Right when he says that, some leaders of the religious institutions of Yahushua's day are telling them to get away from them. Sounds like what me and my wife were going through when we were preaching in front of the church. Get out of here. Go somewhere else. Why? We're here. We want to talk about the Bible. Aren't you Bible believers? Isn't this church a Bible believing church? Why do we have to leave? All we're asking is a question, and we're asking to have a respectful dialogue. Why is this threatening to you? They said, you're disrupting our service. How are we disrupting your service? We're outside. It's a disruption to anybody who doesn't want to discuss or dialogue, who are stuck in their ways and want to keep just a blind eye and just keep, I don't see no evil, don't hear no evil. I'm going to just stay with my schedule, stay with my routine, come to church, leave, go home. There's no spontaneity in people to seek God. There's no sensitivity to the Ruach, to the Spirit, to say, okay, let me see what this person has to say. This person seems respectful. His sign's not threatening. The sign asks a question. My sign is asking a question. Did you know that God's law has not been abolished? Let's discuss this respectfully. I don't see that as being threatening. I don't see that as being disrespectful. So where are the people that can read that sign and say, oh, let me hear what he has to say? Or, you know what? I think he's wrong. Let me show him why he's wrong. Where are those people?
It is threatening because they know.
It's threatening to some people, not to all.
Because they know.
There were some who were very nice to us.
Yeah, but the ones who know, it's like, you seem like you're coming against the doctrine of the church. Does it line up with scripture? If it does, it does. If it doesn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I got some.
D-Rail, go ahead.
Okay, so it was Luke 30, where read, and behold, there are the last who shall be the first, and there are the first who shall be last. Made me want to go to Matthew 5:19, where it says, whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so shall be called least in the reign of the heavens, but whoever teaches them, he shall be called great in the reigns of the heavens.
We got a lot of people.
Pastors, preachers think they're first. You get what I'm saying?
Yep. There are a lot of pastors that have way bigger assemblies than we do. There are a lot of pastors that are more monetarily blessed than we are through ministry. It looks like, from the outside, like they're blessed by Yahuwah. But all while they're teaching lawlessness. Not all of them, but there's some who are blatantly outright today. Nowadays, there are Christian pastors telling you that the law of Moses is done away with. It is not applicable. Creflo Dollar is on YouTube saying even the Big Ten Commandments have been nailed to the cross. Yeah, even the Big Ten, he says. How does that even make any sense? Melissa.
Okay, I have something to say. I work at Goodwill again, and I was doing my job one day, and there was two preachers talking, and I was just working. I wasn't, making them know that I was listening, but I was listening to what they were saying, and they were talking about the tithes and offerings. They were talking about the elderly. It took all I had not to say something to them because I was working. But they were like bragging about how much money they make from the elderly people. Like, and I was so angry. I had to literally walk away from where they were because I'm talking billions of dollars. Like they were talking about how much money they bring in yearly and just everything. And it just really turned my stomach to hear that. And these people have no idea that how they're being deceived. It just really broke my heart.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. That's sad. Narrows the way. That's the lesson for this video. That's the lesson for this teaching. Narrows the way. If you're going to believe in Messiah, you're going to believe in the Torah, which makes the road more narrow. I was a Christian at 16. I gave my life to the Messiah when I was 16. It was a narrow road. Not a lot of people want to be Christian. Not a lot of people want to believe in the Messiah and believe in the New Testament and actually live it. And in 2011, I came to the understanding that, oh my goodness, I'm supposed to be keeping the Sabbath. I'm supposed to be observing the Torah. Oh boy. The Messiah's name isn't really Jesus. It gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And the more we know, the more we should obey. So let's end there. That was Matthew chapter 7, verse
7 to 14. 7 to 14.
13 to 14.
Oh,
13 to
just
14.
playing.